Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Mama, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Hitmen by Leslie Langtry, narrated by Emily Durante. Chapter 1. Coming home after graduating from college without a job is hard enough, but when you're trapped in a gas station bathroom with a Vic who won't die and no way to get him out, that's a bit more of a challenge. To be honest, taking out this target wasn't really my problem. Humans are soft and squishy, which makes them easily vulnerable to death via sharp, pointy things and projectiles. My attempt to exploit that fact, however, was reminiscent of Rasputin. That guy was poisoned, stabbed, and beaten before being tied up and tossed in an icy river. How did he die? He drowned, and at the hand of a Bombay, no less. But that's another story for another day. "Stop moving," I hissed as I kicked the guy in the ribs. He didn't even seem to feel it. He could at least have tried to flinch to spare my feelings. But no, this guy was selfishly clinging to life. Like moments earlier when I punched him in the throat, tried to garrote him, and did the ear clap thingy with both hands. At least I was able to tie him up and gag him. This whole thing had gone south an hour ago. I'd poisoned his food at his favorite restaurant and ran over him with my car, but he escaped and still found the energy and desire to buy foot fungal powder, something I thought was a tad optimistic, at the nearest convenience store. That's when I trapped him in the bathroom. There was only one thing I could do: call for backup. "What's up, cuz?" Louis sounded sleepy. To be fair, he'd just gotten home from graduating summa cum laude from MIT. He'd been sleeping for 2 days straight, according to Uncle Dak. "I'm in a situation where I need your help," was all I could manage. "What, like help with your checking account again? Because if that's the case, you're on your own this time." Of course he brought up my banking challenges. For some reason, I never could manage accounts. And yes, I know that writing every transaction down in something called a checkbook would help, but I didn't have a checkbook and wasn't at all sure how to get one. When I'd set up my bank account, all they gave me was a debit card. I couldn't help it that the technology hadn't really caught up with good old paper and pen. I shoved those distracting thoughts on how I could revolutionize the banking industry and got back to the task at hand. "No," I paused, trying to think of how to say this. "With a job. A Bombay job?" Louis hung up before I could give him the details. He probably thought I was kidding and went back to sleep. The hog-tied body at my feet said. Sigh, fine. With one silenced bullet to the head, it was over. Don't feel bad for him. This was a bad dude. I'd just hoped to make this kill a little cleaner, that's all. It was my first, and that's a major milestone in my family. My unreasonable thinking that this would be the stuff of legends ended with the pathetic "ft" from my silenced 9mm. My situation with the squirming bastard now improved dramatically, but created a new problem. I was in the large, single men's room of a quick-mart gas station/convenience store with a dead body and no exit strategy. The minutes ticked by like hours as I ran through a dozen different scenarios, but all of them ended with me getting busted while struggling under the weight of this corpse. There was a knock at the door. Fantastic. "I'm going to need a while," I disguised my voice, dropping the pitch to hopefully sound like a man. The knob was jiggling. I knew that sound. That was the sound of someone picking the lock. Instinctively, I trained my gun on the door and tried to think. I didn't want to shoot an innocent person, but how was I going to explain the dead, bound, and gagged body at my feet? The door opened slowly, and I'd decided to wave whoever it was in here and figure out what to do about it after. Why not? I'd already made a mess of my first job. "Louis!" I shouted as my cousin slipped inside and closed the door behind him. Louis Bombay was Uncle Dak's son and the same age as me. Blonde with blue eyes and an adorable space between his two front teeth, he was smarter than I was. Smarter than most people, to tell the truth. He'd made a particle accelerator the first week of his freshman year, and I didn't even know what that was. My relief faded as I realized something. Wait, how did you find me? I created an app to pinpoint a person's cell phone within 2 feet of their location. I scowled. You can do that? And you did it to my phone? He gave me a gap-toothed smile. You were kinda my beta tester. Lewis's eyes grew wide as he saw the body. You're working? Like working? How did you get an assignment? I want an assignment. Maybe I should explain. My name is Romi Bombay, and I come from a family whose business since 2000 BCE was assassination. I say was because our parents quit, putting an end to 2 millennia of tradition. Instead of using the skills we'd been trained for since age 5, we had to go to college and find regular jobs. Our parents couldn't understand why we weren't happy about that. I had majored in botany in protest, and now had a degree I had no idea how to use. Lewis got his degree in physics, which was good because he liked to invent stuff. Our other cousin, Alta, wanted to write novels, and her brother, Woody, majored in business. And we all lived at home because we didn't know the first thing about getting normal jobs. My mother, Jin, was a Bombay and an assassin who'd racked up dozens of kills in her 30-odd years of wet work. Like her Bombay cousins, she'd worked for the family business. That was before they shut it down and went legit. We all went legit, whether we liked it or not. Until now. It's a long story. First, I need help getting Vic here out of the way. We refer to our targets as Vic, as in short for victim. Not exactly subtle, but that was family tradition. Other family traditions included our motto in Greek, which translated to kill with no mercy, love with suspicion, and the fact that we all were named after cities, states, and countries. Mine was really Roma for Rome. Louis was short for St. Louis, and with their mother big on social injustice, my mother's cousin Liv named her kids Altamont and Woodstock. Does Aunt Jin know about your assignment? Louis said as he pulled a large, unusually thick black trash bag from his jacket pocket. My mother thought I was out applying for jobs, not doing one. Let's get out of here and I'll explain. I was starting to reach for the bag in Louis's hands when there was another knock on the door. Come back later. I'm washing my hair, Louis sang in a high-pitched, girly voice. That was an odd choice of words. Then I knew why as our cousins Alta and Woody walked in. Liv, short for Liverpool, Bombay, was beyond gorgeous with a tendency towards love and peace and all things recyclable and organic. Like her mother, Alta had thick, glossy black hair and huge, hypnotic eyes. Woody favored his dad, who was not a Bombay, with curly brown hair. Unlike his father or any of us, he had a constant nervous manner that could be very annoying. Ah, you were using code. Now I understood the weird lingo. You got an assignment? Woody squeaked. How did that happen, and why didn't you tell me? Alta asked as she bent down to examine the body. Headshot, very messy, and very unlike you. I ran out of time and ideas. Alta and I had trained together and were, like our mothers, the best of friends. We even went to the same college and joined the same sorority. She knew me too well. Because of my botany degree, I was interested in plant-based poison, and I'd tried that first, but this wasn't the time to explain. Woody rummaged through the cleaning supplies in a cupboard and with bleach and paper towels began cleaning up the blood. He even got the spray pattern on the walls. I wasn't sure it was clean enough to stand up to a luminol challenge, but then anyone taking a black light to a gas station bathroom was likely to see horrors they wished they hadn't. I spotted a piece of cardboard and after pulling a pen out of my purse, wrote out of order. Very carefully, I slid out of the room and using some yarn from the socks I was knitting, hung it on the doorknob. I slipped back into the bathroom with the others. Alta stood up, pointing at the body that was now in the black bag. We're going to say the toilet overflowed. We cleaned it up, and we're taking out the garbage. There's an exit right next to the bathroom, and my car is backed up to it, trunk open." "How did you know to do that? I didn't tell you I had to dispose of a body." Louis turned bright red. "Oh, didn't I mention that? I also turned your phone into a video camera. I found out what you were doing before I called these guys." "We are going to talk about this later," I said evenly. That's why he had a bag. Clever, but I wasn't thrilled with him spying on me. Louis was the inventor of the family. Our parents' cousin Missy, short for Mississippi, had been the Bombay family's version of James Bond's Q, creating everything from pantyhose that caused blood clots to gelatin bullets. I had no idea what pantyhose were, but she said it was a torture device for women back in the 70s that came in a giant egg, whatever that meant. Someone cursed outside the door, obviously unhappy that they couldn't use the bathroom. We stayed silent until we heard footsteps walking away. It was time for us to leave. "We could toss it out the window," Woody whispered as he put the cleaning supplies in the bag with the body. I shook my head. "There's a fast food place next door, and it's lunchtime. It'll be packed." Louis nodded as Woody shouldered the bag. He and Alta would walk alongside it to hide it from view while I'd bring up the rear and deal with anyone in the hallway. Opening the door, I did a quick witness check. No cameras and no people. I gave a silent thanks that this gas station had an exit next to the bathroom. We'd gotten lucky, very lucky. It only took a few steps to wrestle the bag into Alta's open trunk and drive away. I relaxed a bit. "Thanks, guys. Sorry I had to drag you into that." And I was even sorrier that now I'd have to explain what I was doing. "We'll hit the crematorium in the middle of the night," Louis said. He'd taken the shotgun seat next to Alta. I was in the back with Woody. "We have a crematorium?" Alta asked, never taking her eyes off the road. She was a very safe driver. That had been part of our training. You wouldn't believe how many people flee a crime in a panic, only to get into an accident that exposes them to the police. I appreciated her calm approach to this strange situation. Louis shook his head. "I have the keys to Hollander's funeral home and crematorium. It's convenient because the owners are on vacation. I go there sometimes to think." We stared at him. He looked at us. "What?" Chapter 2. We drove across town like a bunch of millennial assassins with a stiff in the trunk. It was a good thing Alta kept her car in good condition. It would be a disaster if we got pulled over because of a broken taillight. "Hey, Romi," Alta looked at me in the rearview mirror. "I've got a new idea for my book." I struggled to keep a smile on my face, but cringed inside. Alta had been working on this book for 4 years. It was a murder mystery, and it was terrible. As much as I loved my cousin, 4 years as an English major did nothing to make her a better writer. She was the queen of purple prose, writing stuff like, "Her mysterious long blonde hair fluttered in the wind like crime scene streamers as she drew her gun." Mysterious hair? And there was this one. "Lodewijk gazed at Lizzie with a heart full of fear and loathing as she combed his beard like a mama chimp." I braced myself. "I'm thinking Lodewijk should have a hobby to humanize him, like collecting teeth or boat keys or something. What do you think?" "That Lodewijk is a terrible name, and who the hell collects teeth?" "Inspired." I managed a fake look of glee. "Can't wait to read it." "Lodewijk?" Louis frowned. "What kind of a name is Lodewijk?" "It's an old Dutch name." Alta frowned, something she rarely did. "It means bringer of the mountain, I think." Why didn't they go off on the idea of collecting teeth? Did that seem normal to them? "How do you bring a mountain?" Woody snorted. "You can't move a mountain." "And who'd want to?" Louis agreed. "Where would you put it? What would you do with it?" "So where are we going?" I interrupted. My best friend wasn't fragile when it came to criticism, thankfully, but I didn't want to witness her killing her cousins right here and now, at least not without knowing where Louis kept his crematorium keys. "The garage sale prep at your house," Alta said. "I told Mom we'd check in. She thinks I've been out applying for work." Louis nodded. "That's what I told Dad." Woody sort of shrank into the seat. He'd gotten his business degree from Wharton last year and still hadn't found a job. We didn't hold that against him. Up until a few years ago, Bombays never had to worry about work because we were born into our required jobs as hired assassins. My generation was a little lost. We'd need more time to turn all that practice garroting our American Girl dolls into everyday, marketable skills. My throat tightened. "We can't take a body with us to the garage sale. Mom will totally sniff it out when it bakes in the trunk." Alta shook her head. "Louis added AC to the trunk. It runs on its own battery when the car shuts off." "You know, for a bunch of kids who don't get assignments, you sure have a lot of assassin-y stuff," I grumbled. "I don't have anything cool like that," Woody whined. "Why don't I have that?" We ignored him. We were used to Woody's worries. He couldn't help it. It was just the way he was. Besides, he was a smart guy with black belts in Aikido, Taekwondo, and Karate. A very useful resource if backed into a corner by ninjas. "Are you going to tell us what's going on?" Louis asked from the front seat. "We can talk in my room when we get there." First, I botched the case, need help from my cousins, and now I have to walk through Mom's weird garage sale preparations. This day wasn't getting better. My mother, Jin Bombay, short for Virginia, her brother Dak, short for Dakota, and their cousins, Liv, Liverpool, and her brother Paris, were neck-deep in junk. The sale was set for tomorrow, and I didn't want to be anywhere near the house when that happened. We parked the car a few blocks over to avoid suspicion, and just in case the trunk AC malfunctioned, and walked to my house. "Mom," I said as I came up on her in the garage. She wasn't listening. Typical. "Mom," I shouted and watched as my mother, Jin Bombay, jumped a foot in the air, spun around, and landing in a defensive stance. I rolled my eyes. Assassins. "Romi, you startled me. Remember what I've told you," Mom said as she brushed a strand of silver hair behind her ear. I still couldn't get used to the large silver streak in her hair. She was too young for that. I was too young to have a mom with silver hair. I sighed and responded, "Never sneak up on a Bombay. I know. You just didn't hear me the first time." Mom opened a box and started going through it. "Well, what is it?" "We're going to my room." I indicated the cousin standing behind me as the garage door closed. "Do you think I could sell this as a cheese slicer?" Mom held up a string of piano wire with handles on each end. "Don't worry, it's clean." She squinted. "Maybe I'd better go over it again to make sure." "You're serious?" I asked. She put her hands on her hips. "I've only taken out 2 people with this garrote. No, wait, 3. Maybe 4. But it's still in decent shape." Voices were mumbling outside. Mom reached for the remote and hit the button. The door slowly rolled up to reveal Uncle Dak, Liv, and Paris. We watched our parents for a while as they carried in boxes and closed the soundproofed garage door. It was too weird for words. Paris spoke up. "I brought these." He lifted a set of throwing knives out of a box. "Maybe we could pass them off as kitchen knives?" Paris was Alta and Woody's uncle and a terrible, aspiring poet. He was trying to get his work published in magazines, but so far had no one interested, and quite a few threats if he continued submitting. I often wondered if Alta got her writing skills from him. Liv frowned as she took one, expertly throwing it at a dartboard where she hit bullseye. "I don't know. Maybe if we added some grips." Dak held up 2 extremely ugly wigs. "I have a lot of these disguises from various gigs. Think we could promote them as Halloween costumes?" Mom lit up. "I think that's a great idea. Just make sure you remove everything from the hidden pockets. I have to live in this neighborhood. I don't want some idiot coming back complaining about finding a baggie filled with anthrax or a switchblade." The adults nodded as if this was the most natural conversation to have about a garage sale. I noticed the spouses weren't there. My dad, Diego, had told me he wanted nothing to do with this. He'd fled to Australia to visit his sister for a week. In hindsight, I wondered if I should have gone with him. Liv held up a bra that could shoot lasers out of the nipples, demonstrating how it worked by putting twin holes in the wall. Louis shot me a look and I nodded. "Mom," I said, "we're going to my room." Our parents waved us away. They were too lost in their own little world. I don't think they even saw us slip into the house. You might think it's strange that my room was soundproof or that the lock on the door was unbreakable. That was a perk for being in this family. I looked around at the pink and white room with all the stuffed animals, the hang-in-there poster of a kitten dangling from a branch, and my decapitated American Girl dolls. I should mention that I'm the only person to be banned from the doll hospital for consistently bringing in mangled dolls. I was an adult now. It was time to think of moving out or, at the very least, redecorating. "All right, spill it." Alta sat on my bed as the boys sat in chairs. There was no more escaping the inevitable. I took a deep breath. "Grandma Mary." A chorus of groans filled the room. To describe Great-Grandma Maryland as a character would be like comparing a rabid bipolar badger to an upside-down floating goldfish. She used to run the council, the board made up of the Bombays of her generation, and they handed down all assignments. The oldest generation always ran the council. It was kind of like a retirement of sorts. When that generation died off, the next generation became the council. My grandmother Carolina had been part of the very last Bombay Council. Anyway, when Great-Grandma was forcibly retired, she was sent to a nursing home in Greenland. Once the council disbanded, she was brought back to this area. Our parents thought she'd gone crazy, but her mind was still sharp as a tack. Dementia isn't really a problem when you can still take down a room full of gangsters at the age of 75. She was still at the top of her game and possessed an epic amount of patience, as was evidenced a couple of months ago when she used her glasses to set an old man on fire. Apparently, he'd stolen her shuffleboard slot. Anyway, Mary Skyped me, said she had some unfinished business she needed me to take care of. She knew our parents wouldn't consider it, so the next day, this showed up under my pillow. I still don't know how she got in here. I pulled an envelope with a broken red wax seal out of a hidden panel in my dresser. Woody whistled as he took it. "This is the Bombay crest. I never thought I'd get to see one of these up close." He wasn't alone in his awe. Over the centuries, all assignments were dispensed in sealed, unmarked envelopes with the crest in red wax, so there was never a question as to what was inside. Bombays weren't allowed to pick their cases, and they weren't allowed to say no. Trying to back out was fatal. Mom always said, "You can't pick your family, but you can pick them off." Alta and Louis crowded around him as they opened it. I stayed where I was, waiting for my cousins to read through the file. It wouldn't take them long to realize that the stiff cooling his heels in Alta's trunk was evil. The Bombays specialized in very bad men and the occasional woman. We didn't discriminate. After a few moments, Louis looked up with a giddy grin. "You know what this means, don't you?" The three of us exchanged unreadable expressions. "Great-Grandma is bringing assassination back." Chapter 3. "I can't believe this." Alta took the file from Woody and turned a few pages forward and back. "Grandma Mary actually gave you an assignment. A real assignment." "Why did she wait until now?" Louis asked. Alta cocked her head to the side. "Why did she ask you?" "Why didn't she ask me?" Woody whined. I shrugged. I had no idea why she chose me over any of the cousins. I'd like to think it's because I'm amazing, but maybe I was just the first one she asked. And just in case that was the reason, I was going to keep that to myself. "So the Vic was the grandson of someone Grandma Mary took out 40 years ago?" Alta handed the file back to me and I shoved it back into my secret drawer. That's what she said. I didn't have much to go on. When a Bombay received an assignment, it was to be accepted with no questions asked. Even though we were technically disbanded, I didn't think it was safe to question a woman who once killed a guy using a cannon. A Civil War-era cannon that she'd stolen from a county courthouse in Kentucky. Vic, who was currently chilling in Alta's trunk, was a domestic terrorist responsible for blowing up a synagogue a couple of months ago. But that wasn't the half of it. He was planning to take out a series of Muslim temples all over the Midwest on the same day. The man also had a collection of fingernails and an unnatural attachment to chickens. I don't know how she knew about that. It's possible she's psychic, but she wanted him gone, and she'd picked me. "I want in," Lewis said. "Me too," Woody added. Alta agreed. I held my hands up. "Now, wait a minute. This was a one-off. Grandma said if I told anyone, I'd be sorry." Most grandparents didn't threaten their grandkids, and if they did, they didn't usually mean it. That was not the case here. "I think we should visit her." Woody ran his fingers through his brown curls. "I'm not sure that's a great idea," I protested, because this would get me closer to the truth that maybe choosing me was random. I wasn't egotistical, but this was my first job, and getting help kind of bruised my self-esteem. "It's a brilliant idea," Lewis grinned. "We've got time to kill, and I sure as hell don't want to get sucked into helping with the garage sale." He had a point, and looking around at my cousins' eager faces, I had a sinking feeling that I was outgunned. "I'm not so sure about this, guys. She'll probably kill me. Literally kill me." "Oh, come on," Woody protested. "What could she do? We'll all be there." I pointed at him. "You don't have the mad skills she has." "We could put you in a bomb-proof suit," Lewis said, chewing his lip. "I could make one with bubble wrap, duct tape, and a diving helmet." "Or an astronaut suit," Woody added helpfully. "Mom has one." Alta looked worried. "Maybe Romi is right. We should stay out of this." Awesome. My cousin had my back. "We could go without you," Lewis suggested. That idea chilled me to the bone. If they did that, and Grandma really wanted me dead, going as far as the moon wouldn't help me. "Fine, but I'm packing pepper spray," I said as I grabbed a canister from my desk and shoved it into my pocket. If this hit taught me anything, it was that I was in a bit over my head. Maybe the four of us could partner up on jobs. Wait, why did I think there would be more? Besides, Grandma was more likely to attack me, which would void any kind of partnership. I hoped the others realized what we were doing. I hoped they'd think of me fondly. "How did she get her intel?" Lewis mused. "Where there's a Bombay, there's a way," I pointed out. "And she's loaded. She can afford the things she'd need to keep an eye on the world." To be completely honest, we were all loaded. 4 years of college hadn't even put a dent in our trust funds. We could buy anything we wanted. Houses, cars, dinosaur DNA, anything. And yet our parents still thought we needed jobs. They were kind of confused that none of us had even tried so far. "I think we need a plan on how to approach Grandma," Alta, ever the cautious one, said. "Please don't mention that you had to help me with Vic," I begged. "Say Lewis was bugging me. That's how he found out." "Fine." Lewis didn't see this as a dig. He was proud of what he could do. "We just have to be careful not to piss her off. Dad told me once that she killed 3 people with 1 finger." Alta nodded. "I've heard that story too. And the one about the hat pin on the airplane. No one noticed that guy was dead until she was already off the tarmac." "What's a hat pin?" Lewis asked, but Alta merely shrugged. "What about the time she shot some guy from a mile away?" Woody added. There were lots of stories about our badass grandmother. Most people would think we were exaggerating, but then most people didn't come from a family of hired guns.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?